about something rather easier than assisted dying for our final topic of the day. Going to be talking about the EU wanting to tax Brits and other travellers from outside the EU arriving in their countries, to pay for their huge COVID lockdown debts. That seems reasonable, doesn't it? Let's talk about this with travel editor at The Sun, Lisa Minot. A very good afternoon to you, Lisa.
Hi there.
Thank you for joining us. I mean, they make it hard enough with the Brexit passport queues. That's our punishment beating. We're going to have to, along with America and everyone else in the world, we're going to have to do our fingerprints and our iris and all that recognition stuff, which is going to take... It's going to be hours when we go to the EU for the first time when that comes in. And now we're going to have to pay an extra tax they're looking at. What sort of numbers are we talking about?
Well, so when this was first mooted, the Etias, which is the European version of our ETA, so when people come into the UK, they have to actually have a visa. It's not a visa, it's a permit to come into the country. Now, when it was first announced back in 2018, it was put down at €7, so that's about £5.80, and that would last for 3 years. So like an ESTA that you have to take out when you go to the States, it's €7. But the problem has been the fact that they have taken so long to bring in both the Etias system and the entry-exit system, which is the one that is coming in this October, that figure now seems pretty low. And like all of these governments at the moment, and it's not just the EU, it happens all over the world, they're looking at ways of actually making sure that they can claw back a little bit of money, and who better to do it from than from the tourists. So the basic idea is that instead of it being €7, this is actually when it finally gets introduced in basically the end of 2026, they're looking at increasing that from €7. It is worth bearing in mind that when we introduced the ETA, which is the same version as the EU one, but for people coming into us, when we made Europeans fill that in, which was from April of this year, it instantly rose from £10 to £16.
Okay, so we've done it too. It's a fair
we have done it as well.
I mean, I go to places like Egypt, and it's 25 quid to get that visa, and you have to queue up at the airport and do it, the cash and all of that. I mean, so a lot of countries do that. It's a way of them getting their money back. The trouble is, a lot of these countries really do rely on tourism. I mean, Spain, for instance, we're their main tourism import, aren't we? We are a huge part of their economy. It does put people off.
It very much does. And actually, a lot of our big tour operators, the likes of Steve Heapy from Jet2 and Gary Nelson from EasyJet Holidays, they are really upset about the tourism taxes and how much they've gone up in recent years. So in Greece right now, if you stay in a 5-star hotel, it's €15 a day on top of your stay.
Because I know a lot of places, they'll say there's an extra charge per day and it's a local tax and you have to pay it. But that's usually like a couple of quid.
Yeah, this is a green resilience tax, and this is all about climate resilience.
Green resilience, backside. Come on.
Yeah, and it is a real concern for our tour operators because they can't build that into the price of the package holiday they're providing you with. That is something that you will have to pay once you get to the resorts. It's been introduced into Spain as well, and it is an extra cost that people really do need to keep an eye out for.
Well, exactly, and people were a lot of people budgeting for their hotel, budgeting for a holiday, and then there's suddenly these massive, not just a few quid, but a massive extra cost. And again, a lot of it when you're booking, especially online, it doesn't really show up, does it? That cost there might be in the small print when you get the email after you've booked. But this is the thing. The countries want people to come as tourists to spend money because we turn up, we book a hotel, you get your taxis, you go to the restaurants, go to the bars, you do shopping, that keeps whole economies afloat. We know what the impact was on London when we didn't have tourists, either from during lockdown from around Britain, but particularly the Americans, the Chinese, people who come and spend big bucks. There is a very strong argument against doing that because if one country does it, another country doesn't, people go, well, I'll go to the one that isn't. It's cheaper.
And that's very much what could soon be happening. But also, apart from anything else, what really upsets me about this is it means that really you're pricing people out of the holiday market. It's no longer a democratization. You're not no longer... The amazing thing that that the low-cost airlines did was made it holidays for all. Anyone could travel. But now it seems that really it's a case of, you're going back to sort of the grand tour days when only the rich could afford to travel.
But that's kind of what a lot of people who make these decisions want. That's why there was the eco-tax this, and you should only be able to take one return flight, long haul a year. Because they know perfectly well they can add extra costs and rich people will still be able to do it. But people who will work all year so they can have that 1 week of a bit of sun and a bit of fun, you know, and get the family together, that will be priced out of it.
Yeah, and that's the real shame of this. There must be a better way of doing it so that it's fair for all.
Well, also, I mean, you know, people, you know, taxes, we have taxes on lots of different things, and we're told, you know, travel is a luxury, but you can, you know, you can tax the people going business class or on the private jets a bit more, can't you? But of course, they don't tax the private jets because the EU leaders use them so much.
That's very much the case. But, you know, it is a case that, you know, travel into Europe is going to become a little bit more difficult over the next couple of years. We've been talking about this entry-exit system
it's going to happen
for years, but it is happening this year.
They delayed it. They didn't want it to come in ahead of the Olympics, did they? Paris Olympics. That was France talking out of it. But what I find so frustrating is the fact that is the idea, are we going to have 2 separate queues? So people who've already been into France or Spain and Italy, and they've already done all the fingerprinting and the iris recognition or whatever, that they'll be able to go into a quicker queue, or are we all going to be stuck behind everybody who's arriving for the first time? We are talking about 4 hours standing in an airport queue at that point, aren't we?
Yeah. I mean, to start with, it is going to be chaos because both the fingerprinting and the iris scanning will have to be done. After that, it will only be one of those 2, and hopefully the e-gates will take some of the time out of that. But everybody will still effectively be in the same queue. We will still be in the non-European queue for those tests for the entry-exit system, because that's the bit that actually tells them how many days we are going to stay in the EU and how many days we've already stayed in the EU.
Well, or we just don't go at all. Bye-bye and see what happens then. They need our money. Lisa Minot, travel editor at The Sun, always so good to talk to you. Thank you very much. We're going to talk to her a lot about that when that comes in divorce. Philip Ingram, it's very frustrating for people, but all countries do it. They add these charges on to make money.
Yeah, all countries do it. You go into the Middle East, you go into the United States, your fingerprints are taken the way through. It's the iris scan that'll take a little bit longer, but, you know...
But it's about most people haven't done it for Europe, and people just pop along. People go to a short haul holidays. It's their only holiday a year. It's
exactly, but I don't think it's going to be as much chaos as people are making it out to be.
I think it's going to be worse. The worst bit is like, why won't they let people do it back in the UK? Why can't I get my queuing over and done, you know, a couple of weeks
maybe
beforehand?
That's something to bring in the same way the Americans have brought in the ETS. You can apply for it beforehand.
Get it done beforehand. Yeah, you're still in a queue for a long time at New York, aren't you? Oh.